Yep. Quit. You want to quit doing those adjustments. They don't work sometimes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've already screwed up, guys. Sorry about that. I have no audio. At any rate, yeah, well, just welcome to Hardcore Metal Detecting Radio. Anyways, Derek Athgar and Craig Talley will be hosting the show tonight. Had to start over again. But I was just telling Craig I'm making adjustments on here, and I obviously hit the wrong button tonight. But I'm trying to figure out the microphone.
Well, you probably didn't hear it, but I just said, quit doing those adjustments.
Yeah, I know. I get tinkeritis. If it ain't broke, fix it until it is. So, but yeah, I figured out what I need to do. I just need to figure out how to get it downloaded onto the Mac here, and I run a Blue Snowball microphone, and they're real good. I mean, it's just that you don't have any software that comes with it, I guess. And I was kind of looking that up tonight because, well, I didn't even realize when I mute my microphone, if I have to cough or whatever, I try to do that. I thought Craig was muted too from hearing me, but he isn't. So I said, well, you're probably hearing cough and everything else, and it makes him stutter because he thinks I'm trying to say something. And if it wasn't for Craig telling me that nobody can hear me, I wouldn't even know. So, but at any rate, yeah, I was trying to get out this morning to do some detecting, Craig, and well, it rained. It started raining at 5:00 in the morning, and we need it here, so I'm not going to complain about it too much. It seems like when you have an opportunity to go detecting, and then it rains for 5 hours, you're kind of pretty well done for the day, unless you want to get out there and get soaking wet. But metal detecting in the rain is like fishing in the rain. It's not the funnest thing in the world to do because you get all covered in mud and everything. But when you want to get dirty, I guess you could do that. So
yeah.
You've been kind of digging some weird stuff too. I mean, what you were telling me earlier, just before the show, some kind of I guess a cast iron clawfoot or something like that, or a furniture clawfoot. Might be a furniture.
Well, it could be like off of like a fireplace grate or something maybe, but it's definitely an old one, and it's heavy. It looks like a hoof sort of, but it was probably, I don't know, 11 inches deep. And it was up near the back fence in my yard, so stuff just scattered everywhere in that yard. I think there was another house, or my friend thinks there was even like a warehouse there at one time.
Could have been. Those things come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes too. I like finding those the feet of the wood burning stoves and the I guess the kitchen wood burning stoves. Even some of the you get the clawfoot, the brass clawfoot from the like furniture tables and stuff like that. Those they're kind of ornate. I mean, I've always liked them. It's not a bad relic to find, just because you don't see them anymore like that. Not the true ones. Some people pay big money for those too. I mean, they need one of those. Where else are you going to get it from, other than a relic hunter? It's out there metal detecting, or somebody that hits auctions and yard sales and stuff like that, maybe. But some of these wood burning stoves, you can't find.
I guess, but maybe about 100 feet away, I got. I guess about 2 years. Well, yeah, almost 2 years ago, I got a iron. It was part of the handle's brass, but then it was a fireplace poker, and you can see where the iron broke off. But it's the brass part's there, but you can see the iron inside of it where it broke off. But I thought that was pretty cool. That thing was really deep. I got, I've been using the Blitz tool and using less discrimination in iron.
Right.
And I've been doing that with the Equinox, and I was picking stuff up next to big iron. And I was reading in one of the manuals or one of the books that the more iron bias you use, the less you won't dig. You'll have more of a chance of digging a coin versus something iron or something. But if you allow more iron, then you'll get marginal targets that the machine they'll pick it out of the iron more. So they've got programs in the Equinox that try to help you pick through this iron was part of the program, I think. But I decided why not do that with the tool, because I'm running out of targets in the yard. But in the last week or so, I did pretty good. I got an Indian head, I got my 30th bullet. I think I got my 26th or 7th button, and it was a real nice one, gold all over it.
Yeah,
and I got a wheat penny, and what else? And I've gotten some oddball iron things, and I want to dig. I know there's got to be another couple pieces of shell in the yard, and there was, Cannonball was hit the house next door. I was talking to people next door today, and there's going to be all kinds of historical tours next week on the weekend in Middletown. And I think going down Reliance Road even. But they got there was a cannonball that bounced off I think it was the chimney in that cabin, and then there was another one that went through the house and bounced off several walls and there was a bolt and landed right, on the fireplace thing. So they were saying something about it. I wonder how they got there. Why would people be shooting stuff? The battlefield's way down the street. And I said, no. I said, this whole area was battle torn. I said, there was I said, a block and a half up Main Street from my house is the inn, which goes back to the 1700s. And it's the oldest continuously operated inn in the country, I think. But anyway, that was a headquarters for, and it changed sides 131 times during the Civil War.
Yeah, those cannonballs just didn't lob them in there. I mean, sometimes they fired them straight out and let them bounce, and cannonballs can go anywhere. I mean, it's not like they discriminated where they shot at. They fired the heck out of them.
But we had Cedar Creek Battle, and they also had all kinds of skirmishes. Like they had one with the Confederate cavalry was fighting Custer's men on horseback. They were the cavalry, but some kind of camp that's never been found, and it's within a mile of my house, but nobody's ever found where they were actually at.
Right.
But there, there was my neighbor across the alley showed me a whole bunch of shrapnel he found with a cheap metal detector and half of a artillery shell, Confederate one. We found probably a quarter of a Borman cannonball and probably about a third of a Schinkel shell, maybe a quarter to, maybe about a third of it. But I was telling those people next door, I said, man, it was bombs bursting in the air here. It was, it was, I said, that's why I moved here. I knew that there had to be stuff here,
Oh, yeah.
And then right on the next block is, I live between 1st and 2nd Street. The Union Army retreated from Front Royal and 1st Street, the whole army.
Right.
So, there was, it was funny because this inn up the street made such a good headquarters that both sides agreed that they wouldn't burn it down because they would be using it again.
Yeah. And there's still places to hunt up there. It's just like you're the big open fields and stuff like that are, been hunted hard. I mean, all the private property and stuff. There's got to be stuff in those. If you're finding stuff in your yard, there's got to be stuff in just about every yard up there, unless it's been hunted already.
Yeah.
But still going to find stuff.
Well, I mean, I've hunted places that have been hunted before, and I'm finding stuff.
Right.
I got better equipment. When I went to that, I haven't been back to that farm. Every time I go by there, it's like, the grass is real high, but I can go anytime I want, so I'll just wait. But
right.
But I was there for maybe an hour and a half, just kind of scanning around, looking for signals to see what might be there, and I kind of looked at, the other guy was down more closer to the creek, and I was looking at the ground, and I was thinking, man, I bet that creek is, flooded and, come over the banks a bunch, so I'm going to go up a little higher, and check it out. And then right off the bat, I got a Spencer casing, and I went up a little bit higher, and I got 2 flat buttons.
Yeah.
So I know there's stuff there, but, it's, the one of the flat buttons, the Spencer casing, were, they were marginal for the Equinox. Well, the one button wasn't, but it was probably 8 inches deep, and the Spencer casing was probably 9 or 10 inches deep. That one was coming back about every second or third swing.
Yeah,
I could tell there was. Well, you have this. You can do this horseshoe thing where you can do all metal and discriminate at the same time, and I was getting a tiny bump. With
well,
the all
it's just
metal.
like anything else, it's going to have its limitations. I mean, because you're not talking about a lot of surface there on a casing like that. It's rounded, depending on how it's sitting in the ground and stuff like that. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, you get to that. Well, at least it's letting you know it's a tweak, like what I call a tweak in there that tells you.
I was getting like a 15, 16, 17, jump every once in a while, but every third swing I'd get a little squeak, and then I'd see the numbers jump around a little bit, and I thought, might as well take a chance.
Yeah.
Plus, it was reading like it was 8 or 9 inches deep on the meter, so I thought, that's a good one to take a chance on. Mm-hmm. And so the Spencer casings are kind of thin. It's brass, but it's they're not that big, and they're very thin brass. But there's also the corrodes, so it has a good halo in the ground.
Right.
But
I've had some of these yards where I do down here that when I first started them, it seems like, well, quite frankly, it was like a target every 3 or 4 inches. I mean, you're talking about a quarter-acre yard or whatever. There's no house there anymore. But when else? It's like, okay, Penny, Wheat Penny, Indian Head, Lincoln. They're all at the same depth. Then you got, pull tabs and nickels. I was using a White's machine back then. Man, I hunted that place like for 3 weeks, 4 or 5 times a week. And I ended up with, several hundred coins and all kinds of Tootsie cars and pocket watches, Rouge containers. Just, I don't know what it was about that property. It wasn't that big, but man, it got to the point where shortly on I was using more discrimination only because, you work this little bitty area and you think to yourself, oh, that'd be like heaven. But it gets old after a while. You know what I mean? You're not having the search time at all. You're just like, dig one, pick it up, put the coil down, boom, dig another one. Then you start getting it thinned out a little bit. And then I had to deal with all the little lead pieces from the nails on the roof. So I started discriminating out those, but I know I was missing. What do you discriminate out? Where you're not going to miss other good stuff. Like brass and copper and stuff. Bullets and stuff. You don't want to, knock out lead. And, a lot of stuff falls into that category too. I remember the funniest thing was every damn target, Craig, on that machine I had, I think it was an MXT, everything was a bullet. It seemed like, or a coin. You know, they had the little icons on there. That's why I got over on screens pretty early on, because everything was a bullet. You know, it's a little icon. I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't dig a bullet one. You know, it was just, you know, it was reading in that range. I guess you could change them. It's back before I really messed with the settings and stuff. But yeah, you can actually have a site that's so busy that you actually have to, well, like, hunt it for an hour or so. And Mark's on the chat right now. And Mike Miller, I mean, I had him brought him over to that church property that I do, and Mark ended up finding a couple rings, and I think Mike found a Mercury dime and stuff. But it's so busy with stuff that a lot of, you know, before I hunted it, you know, when I first started hunting that property, hundreds and hundreds of coins and stuff like that. I brought a couple friends over there before that. They couldn't handle it. It was like, oh my God, I can't pick out a target. You know, so you're having to work with your machine more. That's why it's good to get out of the presets and start being able to adjust your machine so that it doesn't overwhelm you. And then the next time the guy came, I said, let's hunt it for an hour. You know, give it an hour and hunt it, and then we'll go on to a different spot that's not so busy. And I call them trashy areas, but they're not really. Yeah, there's trash in there, but I mean, there's a lot of good stuff too.
Well, it's like, you know, my yard and this house I got up the street, I was hunting, you know, just full of square nails, and in little pieces of can, you know, rustic can, you know, the old steel cans or whatever they were. But you know, I just keep picking away at it, you know, and listening, you know. And it was funny when I had the Equinox in there. That thing was so noisy, you know. But I could pick, you know, signals out. But the Bliss was actually less noisy. I didn't hear all those nails and all that pinging and stuff, you know. And it was just going good over a good target, you know.
What has such good iron discrimination? It has one of the best iron discriminations that I've ever seen on a detector. I mean, you know, that's all of them. It discriminates out iron. You can knock out an axe head, but still get a dime or a penny or whatever non-ferrous item next to it within inches, which you don't find too many machines that can do that. Number one, usually they'll overload. What I call an overload will give you that whip, 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 or whatever, that you're over something really big, and it's not going to tell you whether it's iron or not. You just kind of assume it is. But yeah, you know, that's the one thing about the Ballista. You can set that thing up and hit a colonial site, and not have to deal with the pig iron and all that garbage, but you can still get those good targets. Will ring right through, and I've just never seen a machine that can to do it on that level. But on the same way that Craig was talking about, he's moving his discrimination levels down as far as iron discrimination, and he's getting iron, but he can tell it's iron by the way it sounds. It's not going to be a perfect a dig me signal, but it's going to give you a signal, so you can kind of pick and choose. But you know it's going to be something bigger, like a piece of cast iron or something.
I've kind of tested it, you know, like the other day when I got a good signal, and then I dropped the went down to, you know, knocking out iron completely, and I couldn't hear it. You know, I was just getting barely a scratch on it.
Right.
And it turned out to, and it was coming back in one direction. It wasn't coming back the other way. But it just sounded so good. I could swing hard over it. It just, you know, just grabbed it every time. Mm-hmm. And it was like I guess about 10 inches down, it was like part of this compact or something. It was like brass or copper with a rose on it, like, you know, kind of inflated into the, you know, brass, and then it was some silver wash on it. But it was at an angle, and there was several iron nails and you know, a couple big ones and a bunch of small ones in the hole.
Right.
With it, but you know, it's. I also think that, you know, some of these signals, like stuff on edge, you'll hear it with the Bliss tool, but and you'll probably hear it with the Equinox, but the reading, maybe the readings aren't going to be, you know, a diggable signal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, I know exactly what you're saying. It's something kind of like depth. You get a good tone on something, but it's not reading on the meter. I think we've all had that happen at some time. Just the machines, the meters on these machines are somewhat accurate to I would say. Well, now they're getting better, but it used to be like 5 inches, and then it started really getting, hinky, where you wouldn't get a lock on as far as the visual, the VDI numbers and stuff. The tone would be there. And the old meter style, they had the little pin needle or whatever, wouldn't jump at all, but you're still getting a good signal, and you start digging those and going by sound, and you start finding them. But yeah, I mean, these things, you talk about the surface area on a coin on edge is like next to nothing. And for any detector to pick them up at any kind of, even at 4 inches, I mean, some detectors can't do it. I mean, I was able to bury a quarter on edge, and I was able to get it with the Bliss tool, and that's like unheard of. A dime at 5 inches down on edge, and it was given a, discernible, I mean, definitely a dig me signal. But my whites wouldn't do that. I mean, it just depends on the coils you have on, and that's where the concentric coils, the cone-shaped signal it sends down into the ground. You got it. That's why it's very important to overlap too, Craig. I mean, I see a lot of them working a concentric coil the same as a double D coil, and you're missing a lot if you're not overlapping by almost half. It sounds weird, but you don't have that blade-shaped signal going in the ground like you do with a double D coil. You have a cone shape, so it's the deepest at the tip of the cone. So it definitely overlap by at least a quarter. I mean, those are great shooter coils or coin shooters in a park or something like that. They're great for that because you can get right in between the junk and stuff, and those deeper older coins, you may be able to get a lot better versus a double D coil where you have this like blade that goes 11-inch blade or whatever that goes across the ground, and it's hard. That's where your unmasking capability really comes alive with those concentric coils. They don't make I don't know. Well, I know that Tesoro, they do make. White's has a couple.
I used to use Tesoro in the old days, and they had most of theirs were concentric, and I remember they finally got one they called the Eldorado that was a wide scan, and that thing was unbelievable, and like bullets and low what do you call it, low conductors,
right,
brass and stuff like that, lead, but it was more of a relic, kind of a machine, but you couldn't pinpoint as well with it.
Right.
It didn't pinpoint very good at all, in fact. But the concentric, man, that thing, even with the 10.5-inch coil I used, that thing would, you could make this tiniest little plug, and you didn't have to worry about hitting anything.
You remember those Bigfoot coils? I don't know if you remember Bigfoot coils or not.
Yeah.
For those of you guys that are kind of newer to the hobby, you probably don't know it. A Bigfoot coil, picture a 1x3 board, was it 12 inches long, Craig, as a coil.
Well, some of them are 15 inches long.
Yeah, some are 15. It's like having a 2x4 at the end of where your coil is, and that's what a Bigfoot coil looked like.
Yeah, it's just real long and thin, and
right.
and it's some of them call them sweeper coils.
Right.
It's good for like if you're on a ball field, and it's been hammered or something, and you just you want to cover ground.
Yeah, cover ground. That's our field or something like that, right? But I think you had to pinpoint with the tip or the back of those two. They weren't very good at pinpointing, if I remember right. I never had one myself, but yeah, I mean you're covering ground like crazy.
I imagine it wasn't easy.
Yeah, but it's just like taking your coil on your Equinox coil and squishing it 3 inches wide. That's and it'd be squish it out longer. That's what it's a double D coil, but it wasn't a D shaped. It was it was like having a 2x4 at the end of your coil, at the end of your detecting shaft. It's kind of neat looking, anyways. Yeah. But I think they went out. I think Sierra Sids. No, that's the truck stop. Never mind. God, they sold them out west.
Jimmy Sierra.
Yeah, Jimmy Sierra on his website. He had them. I think Jimmy's not around anymore. I don't think. That was back in the 90s, late 90s.
Yeah.
It may have been. It may have been there a little bit in 2005 or something like that. But yeah, I don't even know if you can get them anymore. I know that they make some aftermarket ones now. I have to look that up. Um, but I haven't seen one like that. But.
I think it's this guy Willis or something that has fixes metal detectors, and he does a lot of Tesoros and mostly U.S. And he can, fix the coils, he's got parts and everything else. And
yeah, coils are, it depends on the shape of them, because I know like the CTX, they have a Nell coil for it. It's like an egg shaped. It's like an 18-inch long coil, and it's about, I don't know, Craig, what would you say, about 12 inches wide? That big monster coil. White's, these aftermarket coils like SCF coils, Nell coils. I mean, they all have their uses, and it actually makes your machine kind of like a new machine, because they react differently. Some of them have very good target separation. Other ones get better depth. Some are concentric. Some are double D. With my White Spectra, I had like 5 or 6 different aftermarket coils. I had a coil for everything I was going to do, plus the ones that White sold. Very versatile. But I never noticed a difference. These great big monstrous coils, I just didn't notice any performance difference rather than using an 11-inch coil. I guess on coin hoards and deeper items, yeah, but I mean,
I remember seeing a couple aftermarket coils, and in fact, my friend McAdams got he had a Explorer Fine Lab, and he got a 15-inch coil for it, and it was pitiful. I mean, it didn't even go as deep as the stock one.
Right, it was heavy too.
And he ended up sending it back, but it was just, I was like, man, that's unbelievable. It's just, but nowadays, I heard a funny one the other day. A guy supposedly went water hunting with the Equinox, but he had the 15 by 12-inch coil on it, and he was complaining he couldn't find the targets, and it was like too heavy swinging it underwater. And
well, you got resistance. Yeah, I mean, that's what I talk about. That's why I make a big deal about Mike Miller. I mean, the guy's in his 70s, mid 70s, and he's out there water hunting in chest deep water for 6 to 7 hours at a time, and I'm half his age, just about, and just a little bit of whatever, but I can't do that for 2 hours. I mean, water resistance. You put that extra stress on your shoulders. If you're not used to it, that's hardcore, buddy. It'll wear you out. Even in knee deep water, and trying to keep that, because you have to use motion, and unless you're willing, I don't like working that slow. I mean, you can work real slow and stuff, and it also depends on the coils that you have on the end, depending how the design of the coil. Like the Beach Hunter ID, for example, the coil floats. The end of it will float, so we ended up putting like 2 ounces of sand in a bag and put it on top of the coil, or some people were using marbles to weight the coil down, so you didn't have that downward pressure plus swinging the coil. Man, your arm just felt like your arm was going to fall off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got that's you got to be a tough son of a gun to be out there in that chest deep water. Now, my hat's off to him. I know Josh Kimmel does a lot of water hunting, or did up there in Chicago and stuff, and of course Chicago, Ron and Reese and all those guys. They'll get right in that water. My hat's off to you, because I tried it. It's not for me. I mean, I can do it, but I mean, it's not. I don't know, Craig. Plus digging targets and stuff. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not used to it, it's okay to do once in a while, but it's not something I do every day. I look like Lou Ferrigno or something, or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I did
with
it.
Arms.
I did it 4 summers, and I think the first 3 summers we didn't know we had to have a permit, so we were hunting everywhere in the water, and then the Marine police stopped us, said we had to get a permit, and so we got one, and then after that one, we went out the next year and hunted with it, and then they took the permits away after that, but it was kind of wild that some of the targets, you'd be almost up to your chin in the water trying to, trying to get the target out of the bottom. It's kind of funny. Probably the best find I made out of the water was the cut 8 real. It was 1755. It was like the rarest mint mark, like a $50,000 coin if it's in perfect shape. But there's been a bunch of them found down there at Fort Pierce, Florida.
Yeah.
In fact, one guy found one on a beach, and he has it in a gold bezel, and he wears it around his neck everywhere he goes down there.
Yeah.
Can't remember the guy's name. He's a pretty famous guy, but I haven't heard anything from him in a while. But
there's a lot of guys.
I'm
not good with their names. I'm not good with faces. I mean, I could spot somebody if I met you sometime 20 years ago. I remember a face, in a heartbeat, but I can't remember names worth nothing.
But I got this signal, and I was like, practically on my tiptoes, trying to keep my mouth out of the water, trying to get this target out. And it took me like 15 minutes to get this thing out. It was down in the gravel. It was like gravel and stuff down there. And I was like right on the edge of a big creek, and then it went into a lagoon, and it was right on the edge, and the high tide was coming in. And I was like right on a trough. I got it right in the trough, and I could feel it with my feet, the sand and the rocks just spinning. And this thing, I kept scooping, and I kept hearing it, and I kept scooping it, and I kept hearing it. I was like, oh my God, I must have scooped about 25 times before I finally got it.
I saw a guy on the beach doing that. You get the shale and all that, the shells that are broken up. The guy's detecting the beach there, and I come up, just kind of BSing with him and everything. And I saw him with those, a scoop sifter, like a, whatever kind, it didn't matter. They have the holes in them, Craig, and you can sift it out. And he's over there, he's in the wet sand, like ankle deep water or whatever, and scooping out and shaking. And I saw him do it. I had to say something after 15, 20 minutes. I said, dude, take it over there, walk 4 steps, dump it out on the where the water's not at, kick it out and come back to it, or hold it in the water, let the water do the work for you, because you're killing me. And he started to laugh, and he goes, well, I haven't done this very much, and my arm is getting tired, from taking the scoop and sitting there trying to sift it through the sifter thing. I'm like, just leave it in the water, let the water do the work, or take it up here like I do. I use a flat shovel that's bent at 90 degrees, and I just take a scoop and throw it.
We had a frame with a motorcycle inner tube on it.
Yeah, basket,
with chicken wire and basket, and then we just throw it up there and then shake the basket,
right.
The inner tubes. But that worked pretty well, and you just have a rope hooked up to you, hooked to that thing, and just kind of cruise around.
I used I got the gold pans years ago. They're plastic, right? And I bought it. And I saw, I think it was Chicago Ron when he was doing a lot of water hunting up there in Chicago and Lake Michigan or whatever. And he had one that he built out of a 2x2s or something like that and rabbit wire. And I said, well, man, we could do something like that. Or I can just go down to Dollar General and buy those noodles, the foam noodles, Craig. And I put that on the outskirts of the gold pan and zip tied it to it. Doggone thing worked great. And I don't ever use it anymore because I really don't go water hunting. But I was like, man, that something I would use. There was a classifier from the gold pan. It had holes that would classify out the rocks, so you get the small stuff in the bottom. You just throw scoops in there. But when that thing sits in the water, you can just throw the whole scoop in. It's already sitting under the water, and the water just naturally just knocks the stuff off of it. But you can get different size holes in the bottom of those classifiers, and anything that I think I had mine set up, where a dime wouldn't fall through. It's a little bit smaller than a dime hole, so you don't lose change and stuff, and you have to kind of be careful with that because obviously like stud earrings and stuff, they're going to go through that, but you also don't want all the shale, the pieces, the shells and stuff, because when you start getting down into these cuts, that's where a lot of the stuff settles, in those deeper pools. That's where the shells go too. So you kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. If you're hunting in chest deep water, well, you don't have much of a choice. But you're already under the water anyways. That's where those T-Rex sand scoops and stuff help out. You're already under the, it's already under the water anyway. So when you take a scoop out, the sand just naturally flows out of it and leaves whatever it is in the bottom of it. But if you're in like ankle deep or knee deep water, it's not bad to do that. It just takes. I'm a fast hunter when it comes to beaches, Craig. I hate sitting there and recovering forever. I just like to take the scoop, throw it out, kick the dirt or sand, locate the target, and keep on going. And I work my way from the water towards the dune, and I'll find the cut. Working back and forth for 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll look back where all my dig holes are, and you'll find a line that goes horizontally along the beach, where most of the stuff is sitting at, as far as when the tide comes in. And it's an easy way. When I start finding sinkers and stuff at one point on the beach, and the next part will be like change, like pennies and stuff. Then it'll be pull tabs and bottle caps. It kind of, because heavier stuff sinks deeper. In other words, so the gold and stuff's going to be around where the sinkers are, and sometimes the silvers, right where the coins are. So I'll work that area down the beach, but to find it initially, because the cuts change all the time. With tides, and if you're on the East Coast, it's a lot more prevalent than on the West Coast. Somebody, I think it was Paul, that's going down to Melbourne, Florida, and I've actually hunted the beaches down through that area, all the way up through the Vero Beach, and even along near Jupiter, Florida. I even hunted some of those back before they had condos and stuff like that. Found a silver cup. Solid silver, Craig. That's kind of cool. That's been years ago now, but now it's probably all built up with condos or something up through that area. But yeah, we found a way to get through from the A1A, and I don't even know if we were supposed to be going through there or not, but we walked about, it seemed like a half a mile. Wasn't that far, but we walked back through the mangroves and everything else, got over to the beach, and it wasn't one of these sand filled, like they pumped the sand in. It was just whatever the typical, untouched beach sand. It has all the shells in it and stuff like that. We did find some older coins and stuff. I don't know what was there before that, but didn't find any. I figured we'd find some silver, really, from a wreck or something like that, but we never did find anything. We hunted like crazy for 2 days, but to find an untouched beach is pretty hard anymore. But they do have the ones up there towards St. Augustine and between there and Jacksonville and stuff. They're the beaches that were real popular back in the 40s, the 30s. You see them on advertisements every once in a while, the old advertisements. And a lot of those beaches, people, they really don't use anymore. They're not real, but they haven't been detected as much. Or they probably have now. I don't know. It's 6 of one, half dozen the other. But they're less heard of kind of beaches. And a lot of guys up there, I've seen stories or heard people on videos and stuff talking about old swimming holes and stuff like that up north, where it was real popular, where a lot of camps and stuff like that are not even really there anymore, but they have advertisements that come out camping at this place or that place, and it was real popular. And they go up, guys with metal detectors go up there and start doing some water detecting and finding old coins and jewelry and everything else. And you wouldn't even know it looking at it, you would find stuff in there like that, because there's just no remnants really. We have a couple holes around here like that where, one of them's Hog Island. I think I've told Mark about this place, and people from Brooksville would take the riverboat over to this area. It's right down the road from me, over on, about, 20 miles from, 15, 20 miles from Brooksville. But they take a riverboat over, or they had a train, and then they jump on a riverboat right there. I actually found the chain that they tied the riverboat up with. It was buried, and I found that thing and pulled it out of the ground, but it ended up being like, I don't know if it was concreted or, I don't know, I couldn't get the thing detached, and the links were about thickness of a $50 thick links on this chain. There was no way to get the thing out of there because I wanted to take it home. It was about 30-foot big old chain, but they would come there and visit. I'd come on the train every day, and they drop them off there. They'd go swimming and picnicking and everything. Some people would get on the riverboat and go up the river with the Coochie River. you know, it was a happening place, but now you'd never know it. I mean, they call it a park right now, but I went in there a couple times back before I knew the rules and stuff. Never got in trouble, but you know, I went to that fishing hole to, you know, metal detector, whatever, and I found some, you know, 1920s coins, stuff like that in there. Before I figured out that I'm not supposed to be in there, so I kind of highwayed out. Not supposed to do parks, you know, so yeah, you can see me arrested or whatever. But you know, it's funny about that. Some places are real. They can be a pain in the butt about it. Other places aren't. You know, you go to Hillsborough State Park. And the funny thing is, Craig, they brought guys in with metal detectors to find the fort down there, or where they think it was. It was like 20 or 30 guys with metal detectors, you know. And then they find where they think it was, and then they stop letting anybody in there with a metal detector. So they'll use us when they want us, you know, and then they run us off. I'm like, come on, you know, we're not looking for.
We'll do it for free.
Yeah, I mean, they're worried about the Indian artifacts and stuff, which I totally get. But there's a lot of people that do that too. You know, they look for arrowheads and everything. I don't see a big problem with that unless you're like destroying areas. I mean,
there is billions of literally billions of arrowheads in the ground.
Right.
Most of them are probably, you know, 8 to 13 feet down, but you know, there's so much stuff in the ground. It's unbelievable. From what Bob McWilliams, you know, was talking about, you know, on these you know, the Indians were here 13,000 years ago for, you know, continuously.
I see pottery on the ground, little pieces of pottery all the time. I mean, just about everywhere at metal. I mean, they're so small they're not even worth picking up really, but you can tell that they were pottery, and you know, shards and stuff. And you know, I don't, unless you're doing it like when they had the people tear it into the mounds and stuff. You know, I get that. That's a whole different story. That's not a father and son, or you know, mother and son, or whatever out there being like, you know, trying to be like archaeologists. I've never actually sifted for arrowheads. All I've done is eyeballed them, you know, on construction sites mostly. It's a lot of work. I don't do it because it's just too much work. You know, it's you know, I kind of developed an eye for it because there was a spot where there was a lot of arrowheads and a lot of, you know, I don't know. It's like I trained my eye to see the white, you know, rocks. You know, anything white, I deliberately started doing that. Anything I saw white, I would examine it. And there was some that, you know, I saw just barely a tip, and I pull it out and it'd be a whole arrowhead. You know, but then there would be times where I just was walking along, and all of a sudden something would catch my eye, and I look down and I see an arrowhead. You know, it's like your mind, your subconscious is, you know, starts kicking in, and where you know, it's always watching to look for these things. Right. And it seems like I didn't even have to work for it. At first, I was kind of forcing myself to look, you know, but then it got so where I didn't have to. I just would walk along and they'd pop up. Yeah, my buddy does it, the land clearing and stuff. We were doing the same thing down the street. I was, you know, walking around with these guys. After it rained, there was like bottles and marbles all over the place that were being uncovered by the, you know, water washing them off. And it was kind of funny, you know. I was getting all the bottles at first, and they were getting all the, you know, marbles. I couldn't hardly find a marble, but lately I've been getting better at the marbles. But yeah, we you know, I have a buddy of mine that does a ton of tree removal and land clearing, and he actually invited me over. That was back when I was doing scrap metal, and man, he had a skid steer, and they had all kinds of steel, and I even took a safe that it was pretty much destroyed, the old safe from the bank, and he was loading all this stuff in my trailer. I'd come back for 5 or 6 loads, and in the meantime, they had a disc come out, and they would disc the property because they were trying to put a sod farm in. That's what it ended up being. And he goes, "You going to look for arrowheads with me?" I said, "Oh, I've never done it before. It's just been 10, 12 years ago." And he said, "Yeah, it just rained last night, so we're looking for anything that glimmers a little bit on the surface here." And he said, here's a 44-ounce, the Polar Cups, you know, from the convenience store. Just put what you find in there, because you want to get everything, because some of them are drills and there's scrapers and there's, And
Yeah.
this guy was, I mean, he's walking around picking up this. He found like 5 or 6 arrowheads. I found a whole cup of scrapers and drills. Just, they're partial. They weren't nothing. Nothing was perfect. His were all pristine. I mean, some, like they were using them yesterday. And I was picking up pottery, those little pieces of pottery and everything else. It was incredible the amount of stuff. I said, man, how are you seeing these? He goes, it's just an eye. He goes, he has like 4 or 5 gallon buckets full of points and scrapers and all the, I mean, really nice ones, axe heads or whatever you want, stone axes and everything. And that's what he does. He's done it since he was a little kid. That was the thing that, they did, is they walked the fields, and it's just a hobby, just, grabbing the stuff. And where we live at, there was so much Indian activity, even before the Seminoles. I mean, you had Timucuan Indians and all these, Preolithic, whatever, way back through this area. I think there was a couple different tribes, and so you find the stuff everywhere. But they have it on parks you
Bob
can't take.
McWilliams said that that most of these areas up and down the East Coast was Indians were here for 13,000 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it's funny, they stayed on the same sites a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But they were always near water, always usually near a river or a big stream. And they were always on a high point where they could see down both sides of the creek. And
well, I'm right here by the Withlacoochee River, and that's where I have that Toll Bridge property, and there's a lady that goes out there and she arrowhead hunts, and she finds it's something, I don't know what she's looking for, like not a bald spot, like where the sand, you can see a little, it's not mounds, but it's disturbed ground, and she's real good at it because you got leaves and everything else. She's real good at spotting them, and she'll get out there with her sifter and her 5-gallon bucket sifting sand, and she finds them. I tried, and I'm like, man, I ain't finding nothing. I don't have the patience for it. I'm more of a walk around, look down on the ground kind of person when it comes to that stuff. But she'll go out in the river, and you see them right there along the edge of the river. When the river goes down, the water washes the dirt,
I want to
dirt
hear
off of them and stuff.
I want to hear a beep that tells me where to dig.
Yeah, no kidding. Whoever develops the arrowhead detector is going to make millions. But.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to, when I metal detected that one colonial site for about 3 or 4 years, I don't know, I probably got 60 or 80, arrowheads, and I don't have any scrapers and other things, but I'd just be metal detecting, and a lot of times I'd have the Nautilus, so there was no meter or anything, and I'd just be looking around, and swinging, and I'd find that's when I found most of the arrowheads was, just like in construction sites and stuff. So anywhere along the Potomac River, anywhere along those major rivers, there was Indian stuff, and the creeks too.
Yeah,
that Potomac Creek was fantastic for Indian artifacts, and it went down all the way down this one side of a peninsula. It was called Lee Sylvania, and we were probably hunting about a mile from there, off the river, but that was actually a park, and there was actually artillery emplacements along the cliffs, and they actually let us. It was run by the Park Service, and they actually let us do a hunt where we planted coins in the sand.
Yeah.
There, and so there was like a little strip of beach, and this kid came running up to me, and he goes, "Look what I found!" And he had a Mercury dime and a buffalo nickel, and I said, "Where'd you find that?" And he said, "Right there on the beach." So I ran down there, and I saw where he was, filled in his holes, and I took 2 steps, and I got a quarter signal, and I dug a large scent.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Everybody had a fit over that. It was probably about 80 guys there, and they were so upset that I dug that. And I got, they said something, and I said, "Look, I didn't know what I was going to find. I just got a signal and could have been a clad quarter, you know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's like me
but
and
there was
Mike when
one
we were
guy.
hunting. Oh, good. Sorry.
Well, one guy went out and he decided, you know, there'd probably be stuff in the water, and he came back, you know, much later and went out in the water with a water machine. I think it was a Fisher 1280X, which was one of the more famous ones back then. We used Tesoro Stingrays, but anyway, he dug I think it was a 1895 Barber half dollar right out of the water there.
Yeah, Lloyd was saying
find.
they used to walk the rivers, streams and stuff like that, walk up and down them. They pick up arrowheads, and then Bill says a arrowhead detector's been out for a while. It's called a flipping stick. And then I see some of the other people, some of them say, you know, what they use, what I used, it's a probe. Like I took a old CB antenna I had, the base of the CB antenna. It's pretty thick stainless steel, and I cut about a foot off of it. Took I think it was a rake handle, drilled a little hole and tapped that thing in there, you know, the antenna in there, and it's a probe. You just probe it around. It just takes forever because, you know, you think about you can miss an arrowhead, but you're listening for a ting 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 type sound. It works good as a bottle hunting thing too, but that's what I would use, and I got over that real quick. You got to have a lot of patience and, you know, stuff for it. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But yeah, I mean, any stream or a field that they just plowed in disc or whatever, if you get it like after a rainstorm the next morning, go out there, you'll see glimmers. I found that was it kelp up there in Ohio, in the middle of a field when I was hunting with Tim there.
Tim will dig up a coin or something, and there'll be an arrowhead in the hole, you know, every once in a while.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good area out there in Ohio.
Yeah, just south of Columbus. Well, anywhere in Ohio. I mean, Ohio's a good state. Pennsylvania is too. I mean, you don't hear a lot about it, but there's a lot of colonial stuff through there too. I mean, at least where I've been at. I mean, Bill Marsh digs reals and stuff. I mean, large cent, King George's, everything else, or people having his sites and stuff. They're around.
Yeah.
Just you got to be lucky enough to get your coil over them.
It's just not a rare thing. I mean, it's kind of a rare thing to find, but they are there. And it's just like here in Virginia, you can get on a good site. There was like a lot of the sites that I hunted, you'd go on some of those sites and all you'd find were large cents and flat buttons. And then there was that one site that was actually a tavern, and on the Revolutionary War soldiers were there. There was, Confederate stuff, Yankee stuff down there. It was just unbelievable. I dug, I think it was 9 cut reals and, 5 coin, silver real coins. But that place was rich, because it was a tavern. They had a lot of exchange, and a lot of these little house sites in the middle of nowhere didn't have any money hardly.
Right.
They didn't have those big silver coins, and I've talked to others, relic hunters about this, and they kind of agreed that, it's not, most people didn't have a lot of that silver coinage, back then.
Well, it's like the Tollbridge property.
And half cents,
We've got that Tollbridge property I'm doing tomorrow. If it's not raining, I mean, that has a history to it. I mean, we've dated it all the way back prior to 1817 or something like that. We know there was people there before it, but they didn't have a lot of currency, I don't think. I mean, unless somebody else has hunted it sometime, they may have. But I'm going to start getting out into the fields and stuff. I'm more looking for relics because I can find something dated back that far, or items dated, buttons or whatever else. I know they have to be there because it was the only bridge for 20 miles either way. So, I mean, they had to be getting across the river, the cattle and everything else they'd bring across that river on that bridge. I found the bridge pieces, so I know it was there. There's a bridge embankment and stuff. It's just a matter of finding the stuff. Because the property owner, he has some photos and stuff, and I don't know, he has a neighbor they think was jumping the fence and hunting it back in the late '90s, maybe even in the, like just at like 2001, 2002. So I mean, I went around the house like crazy, and I didn't find any old coins, and not even I figured I'd find an Indian head or something, and that tells me it's been hit pretty hard because I hunted the whole. It's like I don't know, Craig, a couple 100 feet of it. I did find Model T parts and stuff like that, carburetor, stuff like that, but he also scraped that ground, and they scraped it down for the boat ramp, so it's buried under shale right now. So I lost, obviously you're not, most of your finds are probably going to be, to 8 inches if you scrape that property that way. So I'm hoping I get out towards the field more, because they did have crops. They talk about, an orchard out there. You don't see any remnants of it anymore, but it has all the markers for it, and it's located a mile back off the main road. It's not like it's right there by the roadway where somebody could just jump a fence. They had the one neighbor that owned the adjacent property, but I'm hoping to be able to find some stuff there. But that's where all the Indian stuff is, and it's right along the Withlacoochee River. Man, it's a beautiful. I told him, if you ever want to sell this place, I can't afford it, but I'd love to buy it just for the view. And you can actually see the old bridge pylons that are over there. They're sticking just above the water. Now there's one. I think I put photos up. There's two on the side that I'm hunting that are up still. And there's a cross member up there. But yeah, I mean, the activity was there, but I don't know if I'll find any coins or not. I may just be other kind of artifacts, buttons and stuff like that, which I'm hoping that's at least what I find to date it back more. Maybe even, clay pipes, whatever, because there was people that traveled through there. They used to charge a toll to get across it. That's what Pauline's 5 great grandmother back used to do. You had to pay to get across that bridge. And if you didn't, well, yeah. You got shot at or whatever. They didn't play, but just finding the history of it, and saving it, that's what it's all about. I gave him most of the stuff anyway, so, just so he can put it. He was pretty impressed even with the rusty bridge parts I found, the old pieces of iron and the old square bolt like things, the forged ones. I don't know if they're forged or how they did it, but it was put up in the 1820s, I think it was 1830s, somewhere in there is where that bridge. It went from a wooden bridge to a metal bridge. But even the way they did that, when they put the pylons in, it was pretty much up like a pipe, and they filled it with, the post, whatever, the metal post, I-beam, whatever, for the bridge itself, and they would pack it with the shale, sand, and wood, stuff it down into those pipes to whatever to have it for support, whatever, to hold the bridge up. And there's some of those are still up, parts of them, anyways. So. It's kind of a neat location, but yeah, it's a mile back in there on, it's not even a road really. It's just, where he drove a dozer and dozed it out. It's the old stagecoach road, in other words. So, yeah, I have the stagecoach road actually came onto my property, right at the property line right there, between my neighbors and my house. It's only, but it's so much junk in there, Craig. I mean, the modern stuff, and you can hunt all day long, but the ground is, sand, you know what I mean? So the stuff sinks over all that time, and all those wagons and everything else going through there. I mean, I found that Standing Liberty, or Walking Liberty, and a V-nickel from 1901 V-nickel over there. But man, I dig a bucket full of junk to get one halfway decent target. It's just that bad. So, and there's can dump and everything else. That's where everybody dumped their stuff back in, who knows when. No bottles, though. Figure that one out. I haven't found a bottle pit yet. So I was hoping to find at least that. At least I could dig it up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But rusty cans like crazy. Jeez. And snakes and critters and ticks and shoot. But yeah,
I've been run out of my yard. As soon as it starts getting a little bit, the sun starts coming down, it seems like all the mosquitoes start coming out like crazy. But
well, they have bug spray or foggers up there. We got them down here.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, they're not putting any of that out, but it's just like, kind of normal. I mean, even in Alexandria, we had mosquitoes and stuff, but it's just, it just starts seeming to come out right about dark, or when it starts getting, the sun starts going down. They don't like the sun on them, I guess.
We're so lucky over here where we get, it's essentially, it looks like a pickup truck with like a 2-cycle engine on the back or whatever, a gasoline lawnmower engine that puts this fog out, and he'll drive up and down all the roads. You hear him buzzing all around, and it takes care. We don't get, I don't know, I don't get bit by mosquitoes outside at all. We can sit out there and have our coffee in the morning, early morning hours, or go out and have a cigarette or something like that. But right across the river, like I said, the river's about 200 yards from our house, not even that. In Nobleton, and they are getting eaten alive and carried off with mosquitoes, and they don't spray over there. The Brooksville or whatever, Hernando County doesn't do it over there, and it's comical just the amount of spraying they do over here or fogging, and you don't really smell. I don't smell the snuff. I know they do it like once a week or once a month, and it seems to do a doggone good job. And I don't even know what it would cost to, it seemed like it'd be prevalent in your area if you're getting bad mosquitoes. It can't be that expensive to do it, but it just takes care of the ones that fly. I guess they don't breed as much or something. I don't know, but we're pretty fortunate.
These seem to be down in the grass, and then as soon as it starts getting a little bit cooler and darker, they start just coming up out of the grass and getting you.
I'll never forget the videos sent in by Gunner up in Minnesota in the fall.
Oh
my God! I was like, or in the spring or whatever, the mosquitoes. He had a mosquito net on, guys, and they were just covering that mosquito net. And he's trying to do a video in metal detect. Not me. It would just drive me insane. I hate bugs. I don't like to be bothered. Honeybees are great, and butterflies are nice. Dragonflies are good, but doggone mosquitoes and spiders, you can have every bit of them. And love bugs, man. I tell you, I get them bad too. I don't know. It's just annoying as what it is. I hate being annoyed. But he was out there in this mosquito net thing and trying to metal detect, and he was just getting covered by them. It's like Alaska. The last place you would think mosquitoes would be bad, it would be in Alaska because how cold the winters are.
Yeah, and they
oh my God.
It seems like they got the huge ones too.
And they're hacking on them, and they're going down their throats, and they're trying to do stuff. I'm like, oh man, I just want one big bug zapper. I just want to annihilate the whole bunch of mosquitoes at one time. One big electric pulse go through there. I mean, it's not that I just don't like them. I don't know, getting bit up.
I guess there's a lot of different breeds of mosquitoes.
Oh, we got some mosquitoes down here the size of quarters. It ain't no exaggeration. Those things will hurt like hell when they bite you. But the little
ones we got up here, I can't even hardly see them.
They're little ones. Yeah. That's one.
They leave a little tiny bite, But there's other ones that when they bite you, it's like a bigger bite, like a little mark it makes, where it swells up on your skin.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had to come in and cut. I had like 5 bites on each arm. I just take rubbing alcohol and rub it on there, and it takes the sting out.
My parents used to take us out blackberry picking when we were kids, probably, I don't know, 9, 10
Oh my
years
God!
old. You got double misery right there. All the stickers on the stupid blackberry bushes, and the blackberries are beautiful. I mean, we're talking thumb-sized blackberries. But the mosquitoes and the horse flies and the Lake Erie black flies, and I mean, I got traumatized as a child. I got ate up. I mean, I had bites. I mean, they and horse flies would take chunks out of your ear.
They're horrible.
Man, and my dad would get so kicked at me. I'd do it for an hour, and I'm like, Dad, I'm done with this crap. I mean, I've always had an attitude problem with bugs. I just, it's not that I'm scared of them. I just hate them. But yeah.
It's like
you got to pick them. We got to freeze these, preserve them, and because my mom did all the canning and stuff. She used to, jams and jellies and whatever.
Like certain people and don't like other people. It seems like.
I always had a saying. My dad always told me too. He goes, you got to be like this. Hate everybody. Don't discriminate. You hate everybody equally until you like them. So. That's who I am. I don't discriminate. I hate everybody equally until I get to know you. And that's I'm just that way. That's why I think this hobby is so great, because there's such a mixture of people in general, and it's like we all pretty much get along good. I mean, I've gone to a lot of different hunts and other activities and meetings and stuff, and people that I probably wouldn't really even probably have a chance to talk to from different different jobs and everything else.
Go ahead. On Hardcore, I got this mem on there, and it shows it's some type TV actor, and he's looking at another guy, and he goes, "You metal detect?" And he goes, "Are we best friends?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw that one. That's what it's kind of like.
Yeah, it is, because I remember meeting total strangers at metal detector in the woods, and ended up being friends with them for years. After that.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, it's like
a lot of people were saying it's true, and a lot of people were saying and three going out in a threesome, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I've had a lot of guys that I've hunted with. I mean, we get along great as long as it's metal detected. And then if some people I wouldn't even associate with them. I mean, we just don't have the same thought pattern or whatever. It's like Gunner. I always talk about Gunner up there in Minnesota. I don't even know if he still metal detects or not, but we had he's one of my moderate.
He's into making. He's into making clay pots or some kind of thing.
Yeah, he's Gunner, if you're listening, brother,
the guy is
maybe
multi-talented.
Oh, he is. He is. He's just a strange guy. He's a strange person, but for me, anyways. But me and him, we could talk metal detecting, and we, shoot that was or whatever. But it just outside of that, and he probably thinks the same way of me. I mean, but as long as it metal detecting, man, we were on it. We were buddies. But when it got to all this other stuff that he does, catching moles or gophers or whatever it was, and all, I don't know. He just does a lot of different stuff, but he's not into any of that. But it's like Craig and I probably would have never met if it wasn't for metal detecting, because we don't run in the same circles. Craig's more, the tennis track star, that kind of person. I'm just a southern redneck, Yankee born and southern raised, I guess. But it's just kind of funny like that. My wife, there's an ongoing joke in the family. They're all my wife's sisters, and including her. They all had to marry Yankee boys to make sure that they weren't related. Because I think my one brother-in-law's from New York, one's from Texas, I'm from Pennsylvania. All the sisters married Yankee boys. They don't want to marry a cousin or something like that. You never know, because the family roots run so far back. Right in this area in Florida. Way back in Seminole Indian times or whatever. So I guess you just wanted to make sure you weren't getting that bloodline too close.
You don't want to get all inbred, huh?
No inbred down here now. No, I think. Well, even a matter of fact, one of her grandmothers, whatever great grandmothers, came from Louisiana, and then on the other side of the family is German heritage, mixed in with Seminole, and so it's. The family's been here for a long time, but they come from different parts of the world, even. So it's kind of neat. We could track it back. It's like Mark. I think it's Mark Hoover. His wife tracked their family history back to the Mayflower, which is really cool. The first settlers. So it just being it's just kind of neat. But yeah, I mean, with metal detecting and bottle hunting and everything, I'm sure it's the same way in most hobbies. People that you probably wouldn't even associate with or never have a chance to associate with, you kind of get along with, just like-mindedness or whatever. But you do meet a lot of neat people, and I've actually seen this, Craig, where we have a couple friends that are lawyers or doctors or whatever that like to metal detect, and it's helped out a lot of, I call them our group or whatever, of hobbyists, because somebody has an issue or needs help with some particular kind of thing, whether it's lawyering, doctoring, auto mechanics, whatever. There's another guy out there that metal detects that does that for a living. Like Brandon does, all the appliances and stuff like that. If you lived up there in New Hampshire, now you can call Brandon up. He has a store and everything. He does all that stuff. Craig does tennis rackets of all things. He restrings them and has all the equipment for it. You know, if you're a tennis player, well, you can, you know, Craig
Well,
Meadows.
I used to. I sold all that stuff.
Oh, you did sell it? Okay. Well, anyways, you get what I'm saying, though. You know,
But
you have outlets like
my
Mark Hoover
clientele
does
was
like
back
IT
in
work
Northern
and everything.
Virginia.
Mark, I think does IT work and you know, or with computers. He travels around and does that. I'm sure I don't know exactly what Mark does, but you know, I know it deals with computers. But like my kids, you know, Bethany and Kyle, you know, he's a coding. They call it computer intelligence or something like that. He's got a master's degree and he's working for some government company as a contractor. And the kid's 28 years old and making more than I did in my first, I don't know, 15 years of working. Yeah, he's doing real good. But he enjoys it, but he's really good with computers, so is my daughter. So if I need something done, I can, you know, if I need to call them, you know, they can make it happen. They don't
Yeah, they
understand
fixed a lot of stuff for us.
Oh my God, yes. My daughter's a fantastic with websites and stuff like that.
Yeah, she was invaluable.
Well, she went and got her degree, and she's actually going to go back, but they know the coding and stuff like that. That's where it gets confusing for me and a lot of other people. And you know, I've seen them. They make games. You know, they've done for fun. You know, making the video games that you play on Facebook and stuff like that, Craig. They do that kind of stuff for fun. Make them. Oh well, we don't. Let's start a different one now. I'm thinking, just turn that in and make some money. They were going to make one for metal detecting at one time, because we still can't find a decent video for or whatever game for metal detecting. There's a couple of them out there, but they're kind of cheesy. But yeah, my son-in-law is really good with that kind of stuff. So is my daughter. But they try to incorporate the editing for videos and stuff they're not familiar with, believe it or not. I help them out on that because I used to do so many videos and stuff and the audio files and stuff like that as far as music. And so they'll call me for that information. So we kind of help each other out that way. But as far as websites and forums and Facebook pages and all that, even they're getting out of Facebook. Facebook is hanging on. It's nowhere near what it was 5 years ago. I mean, Facebook was a place to be at. Nowadays, we're there, but we're not, we do what we can, but Craig, they've made it so.
Well, they're talking about, I'm seeing stuff on the internet about, they're looking into antitrust big time, I mean, Zuckerberg lied right to their faces, and they let him, they knew it and they let him go. But it's gotten to the point now where people are, sick and tired of all this privacy, stealing everything. And Apple just came out, with a thing where, you can hide your identity and go onto these sites and they can't track you, where they protect your, they actually put out a fake email that you can get it, and you can get stuff from it if you want to, but they can't track you and they don't know who you are.
Right.
But
like if you go on a service or something,
and then you start sharing. But Apple has been on the forefront of this, saying we don't think it's proper to profit off people's privacy, and that's what Google and Facebook, YouTube, all these big tech companies are. Microsoft does it. Just about all of them do. All the newspapers and magazines, they're dying. They can't compete, with Google and Facebook. They basically got about 70% of all the advertising.
Well, I get aggravated with it just because, like, I used to be on Facebook all the time. I'm still on Facebook, but Craig does most of it with the Facebook, the Hardcore Metal Detecting Facebook page. But like, I go in there and I'll go down through the list. And it gets bad when you feel guilty about sending a friend request. I mean, I'm kind of like looking at people. Okay, I see so and so from whatever state or whatever part of the world, and he says he has 200 friends. So you can click on that, or just move your cursor on that, and I'll look down through the names. If I see Craig Talley and Mark Hoover or whatever, guys that I know on Facebook that are into metal detecting, then I click send a friend request because I want them to invite them to Hardcore Metal Detecting. But when they start making you feel guilty about doing that, when you have these people that are these hoochie mamas and everything else that are on there, and they have no, or I like, my favorite one is you see a picture of some scantily clad female and it says his new Facebook profile picture. So it's some kind of freak. And one friend, and they have like one friend or whatever. Get all
well,
those
it's a constant
things.
war. They, Facebook is trying to take them down, and they're trying to fool Facebook, and
then
they got all
these.
Down. They got all these things going to websites, and it's just I click on all these now, and if I see somebody that doesn't have like a profile, picture,
right?
I just delete it.
Yeah.
And then if I see like a big coin on there, then I go, and if it's it's usually some kind of auction site for coins,
right, yeah,
or they're trying to sell coins.
Yep.
I got so where I just delete those. I don't, I've actually gone back through my, Facebook pages and just started deleting people. I remember I went back a couple weeks ago and deleted about 400 people.
Yeah.
I was just getting, I don't know a tenth of them, but they're
like
mostly
30s.
metal detectorists or something to do with metal detecting, a lot of it. But I was getting up. I think I was up over 4,000 friends, and I'm like, oh my God! And if you hit 5,000, that's the limit, I guess.
Oh, I got like 3,800 on my personal Facebook page.
Well, I have people asking for requests, and I can't accept them because they got too many already.
Oh wow!
But
yeah,
it's weird.
Well, I mean, you're just that's one thing. You legitimate people, whatever you do, whatever the Facebook page is about or whatever group. You just, you want people to interact, but when you get the stupid people on there, that are just out to rip off identities or whatever the hell they're doing, that's when it gets aggravating for me. I mean, I just want the people that want to, that are involved in kind of, metal detecting, bottle hunting, whatever, any kind of adventure kind of thing. That's the people that we want to attract to our forum, or when we have the website going and all that stuff too. I mean, that's what you want, because we're all like-minded. I don't need the, get-rich-quick people and the coin auctions and the whatever. It gets kind of stupid with all that, because that they're not really into metal detecting or any kind of thing you're talking about on there. They're out there to scalp followers or whatever.
They figure because you're into that you're into jewels and all kinds of. I get all kinds of weird stuff. I know it's kind of a scam coming like from Africa and a lot of places in Asia and Philippines, and it's just India's got a lot of gem stuff coming out of there. But I get constantly, they want funds or they want metal detectors. I've had a lot of those. I've had quite a few people, poor people from the Philippines, want to know if I have a detector I can let them have and stuff. Yeah. Okay, you're looking for Marcos's gold, Japanese gold.
Well, we got a lot of followers from like South America and stuff like that. Now that we translate a lot of the stuff that they message it, we'll translate it back. We're able to do that. It's nice because there's a lot of people that metal detect down in South America, Canada, whatever, around the world, and language is not such a barrier like it was 10 years ago or 12 years ago. I mean, we, even with me and Ahmed, he's from Bulgaria. Luckily, he spoke pretty good English. But, when I dealt with, there was a couple other people I was talking to from Russia or whatever, about metal detecting, I'd have to get their email, translate it, hope it got translated right, and then respond and send it back to them. But, when you're in the hobby, it doesn't matter what part of the world, you're talking the same language in a way. You just got to figure out what they're saying. Because you got a couple of friends from Austria and everything else, too. I mean,
they speak German.
German, okay, yeah.
But like the guy in Albania that he had to translate to Russian to English, Russian English in order to speak to me. They didn't have a translation service to Albania or Albanian, whatever they speak. But
I told
You know,
several people that.
that part of the world at one time was like all Yugoslavia, and then they chopped it all up, Serbia and Bosnia and all those places.
Yeah, it wasn't that long
But
ago either when that all happened. I mean,
no,
that country's gone
13
through
years
hell.
ago, I think.
Yeah, the country's gone through hell with all that. And you know, South America or South Africa, same way, man. There's always these civil war things going on, all this craziness going on. But I mean, the good people are stuck in the middle of it. It's all politics, a lot of it. But yeah, you never know. You know, you feel, you know, I kind of feel bad when like you've been to some of these countries and not realize just how bad it is.
Mm.
So hopefully I didn't get that. I hit the mute, but I had to sneeze real fast. But you know, we take for granted a lot of stuff that we have here and things we do, and we complain about things that they only wish they had. You know, some of these third or fourth world countries and stuff like that. But yeah, governments and stuff. And politics. I hate all that junk. You know, just people are people. You know, they just.
Well, there's a lot of places in South America and in Africa you're not even allowed to have a metal detector.
Right.
Totally forbidden. I remember back in the the late '80s. I had a guy from Ecuador who was an engineer, and he bought I think several metal detectors from me. He bought a 2-box machine, also one of the Fishers.
Oh yeah, the two. We don't ever talk about those on the show. We need to talk about those one day. 2 box. Yeah.
I never tried it or anything, and that's the only one I ever sold. And but he was telling me a story that when he was a kid, he found a gold nugget in a stream about the size of his fist, and he said when he took it back home, the older kid stole it from him.
Oh man!
So he said he wanted to go back, you know, with a metal detector, and he said, you know, they don't want, you know, metal detectors in the country, you know. So he took it all apart, and he had he said he came back about a year later and was telling me the story. And he said when he went through customs, they said he had the box off, and they said, "What is this?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a radio transmitter," which it is.
Yep, it is. Transmits radio signals. That's right.
And they go, "Oh, okay." And then they asked what the coil was, and he said, "Oh, this is what do you?" Let's see, I was trying to think what the heck he said that thing was. I can't remember what he said the coil was, but and then they asked him what the pole was, and he said it was a crutch.
Well, when I went through Heathrow Airport, they pulled me around to the security thing, the security room, and they wanted to know what I had the control boxes from the Blissful. I had 4 of them because took them over there to get them fixed and everything. So I was going to Bulgaria anyway, and they rubbed this stuff on this material on the outside of the control boxes and stuff like that, and run it through this machine. I guess it was a bomb sniffing machine or something, like to see if there was bomb making residue. I'm thinking to myself, okay, we've been soldering on these things and doing this and changing stuff. I'm going to get arrested here at Heathrow Airport over something that's not even, you know, a bomb or anything, because of the batteries look like little sticks of C4. I mean, they're the drone or whatever RC car batteries are like about an inch thick, 4 inches long, and about an inch wide. They look like little, and they have wires coming out of them. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested and everything else over something that's not even a bomb. But they ran through that bomb sniffer thing, and you know, I said they're just metal detector control boxes is all. I just had to have them fixed. Oh, sir, we have to do this, and we can't identify what it is. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, that's Heathrow Airport is kind of craziness. Boy, I tell you what, it was like calves or like cattle going through a feed lot. When you got off one plane to the other, it's not like it is over here. It's just so big, I guess. It's big hallways, and everybody just kind of walks. It's kind of different. At least the day I was there. But, you know, it's international. They're all, you know, people from all over the world flying there. Frankfurt wasn't too bad. I stopped on there on a layover or whatever. But, so, shoot, I don't know. World traveler. Well, sort of. I've been to a few places. I've always liked traveling. You know, I've always liked traveling, but haven't been to a ton of countries or anything. But I've always enjoyed it anyway. But shoot, Craig, probably got to wrap it up for tonight. So
All right.
about 9:30, just about. Anyways, I see all the guys on there tonight. Even Brandon Swazi Searcher on there, and we got Ohio Relic Hunter Bill Marsh and Loy from Relics Radio, Mark Hoover, Relics Radio, and Adventures in History. Let's see here. What else do we got here tonight? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to go through here. I saw Paul on here tonight. Well, you guys have been chatting up the storm tonight. I don't know. We got Nelson Sauter on tonight on the chat, and Barb's on there tonight. I didn't see that. Sorry, Barb. Hello. Is everybody kind of checking in? Robert Wallgas, Gavin's been on tonight. So it's nice y'all are checking it out on a Saturday night here. And, we do have that, and I messed up at the first part of the show, and I'm sorry about that. We do have, of course, the phone number, the 352-504-4170, and you guys know that here in the U.S. And for anybody else outside of the U.S., you save on international phone charges and all that. I don't even know what those come to. And I put it up at the beginning of the chat. If you want to look back on the chat part of it, just hit the comment button on any one of the shows that you're listening to, the last couple anyways. You can get us through Skype. So you can get on your laptop or desktop, whatever. I think there's even an app for your phones now where you can call us through Skype. And the contact is my name, Derek.Asklar1. Just the number, the physical number 1. And it's up on chat. I think I put it up on the Facebook page too. So if you live in the UK or, I don't know, even Canada or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can call us through Skype, through the Skype contacts or whatever, and it doesn't cost you anything that way. Rather than using your cell phone or whatever, I'm sure that gets expensive. So if you ever want to join in the conversation, you're more than welcome to do that. And I'm pretty sure that, Lloyd's probably set up like that too with Relics Radio and Josh Kimmel for Beyond Sight and Sound and All Metal Mode and everything. I think they can have the same ability to do it. So anytime you're listening to one of our shows, you can kind of join the conversation. And, I know that you're on a time schedule though. If you're like us, me and Craig, we're up in the middle of the night sometimes. So if you want to call into a radio show and you live in the UK, no biggie, right? 5-hour difference. So, jeez. But yeah, like and follow the shows and, just be supportive. We got a lot of shows on Spreaker, not only metal detecting shows. There's a lot of different topics, talk radio, sports radio, music, everything else. So, you can follow their channels and you can get informed when they're doing live stuff. And, it's just a fun thing. Podcasting is getting bigger and bigger. And, it just makes it kind of nice. You can find topics you like. There's even Michael Rowe. He does the show Dirtiest Jobs and Deadliest Catch. He's a narrator on it. He has one called The Way He Heard It, and it's like these 10-minute little shows, and it tells a story, and they're true stories. It's kind of neat, and he has a he's good at that kind of thing, anyways. But yeah, I was surprised to see him on Spreaker. So if you search around a little bit, you'll find out there's a lot of talented people out there on there. So be sure to check them out. We're on every Thursday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. And we may be starting to do a few things during the week. And we haven't decided yet exactly what we're going to do, but little shows here and there, something different. So kind of be looking out for that. And, Craig and I will we'll talk, morning cup of coffee, right, Craig?
Yeah.
There you go. Anyways, guys, have a good night. Keep digging. God bless.